Advice I can give you is what I give my staff. It goes like this: welcome every human experience.
No, guys, at my Pick and Pay, they know me as the kid who used to shoplift. Do you know what I mean? So at that Pick and Pay, when I walk past, they're like, where not?
Cash my dad.
I hope this time you come
You
again.
can extradite this man. Not a crime.
I saw Trevor Noah, even Trevor Noah.
Even
He
Trevor.
admitted criminal, used to be a criminal in South Africa. He used to steal all the time. I wonder if we could do something. We could probably do something. We gotta look at this.
Cash to your job.
Got do your thing, Cash. Do your thing. He admitted it. I said he admitted it.
This is What Now with Trevor Noah.
For every conversation, he leans in. Eugene, I'm telling you, bro, we need to make that show. He leans in. Come on, Gabe. That's all. Yeah. He investigates all the claims. What He leans in. Eugene Koza is no contradictive. How much? How many? Do we need to report these funds?
I'm also sensing that Eugene only asks questions of 2 words. How much?
Yeah, that's a G.
How many?
That's a G.
When last?
That's when you get in. That's when you get in. Dan, welcome to the podcast. I apologize that you met me on a day that I'm with Eugene because it means anything can happen here.
Good.
But I think that's the perfect setting for a conversation about genocide. About not just genocide, guys. But personally, I always start my week with a genocidal theme. All South Africans. This is what we do. You know, my father always
Wil je hem dreigen?
Nee,
maar doe
je moet
genocide.
zeggen.
Ik moet zeggen. Oh ja, ik kan mooi.
Why are you spoiling the jokes then? Now I have to reveal to everyone that my father was a white man who lived in South Africa and loved it. Damn it, Dan! You're spoiling the narrative, Dan!
I thought it would have been an interesting narrative
No,
arc
Dan.
of the Swiss white man is also
No,
committing white
Dan!
genocide.
This guy, you're revealing my backstory, Dan.
Oh, no one read the book?
No one.
Everyone read the book.
But okay, so this you know what, this is what I found particularly strange about this conversation. A lot of the time I'll have a conversation with people and we're trying to like figure something out moving forward. I feel like for this conversation, we're trying to figure something out backwards, right? Because I'll just put people on the timeline. So I know a lot of people in America, a lot of people in the UK, etc., are going, what is happening in South Africa? A lot of people are like, we heard there's a genocide. We heard that white people are being mass slaughtered. There's the whole thing. So then the whole world woke up. So you guys live in South Africa. I was in New York. Then I saw the stories public. So obviously I follow South African news. But you know there's stories where it's like, guys, they don't come. Like ESCOM doesn't come. The story doesn't actually come to America. Right? This story started overlapping. And slowly you started to realize that it became part of the news, like international news, okay? Then it was interesting, international journalists stepped in and said, we want to get to the bottom of what's happening, because how could a genocide be happening under our noses that we don't know about, right? So the BBC, CNN, you name it. Yeah, I was even getting requests, people were emailing me, hi Trevor, we heard there's a genocide. If you're safe. No one asked if I was safe, because they're like, we know where you live.
It would be incredibly funny if Facebook asked you to check in as a white person each day. I don't know whether you would still do that. That would be very good.
But what was interesting was, as quickly as it blew up internationally, it dropped off. I saw conversations everywhere. One of them was obviously you went on Piers Morgan.
I went to my house.
You were in your house. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe we start with this. Were you shocked when you go on Piers Morgan and you're coming there to talk about the fact that there is no genocide. There's a whole panel of other people, you know, who are like half of them are there to say there is a genocide, and then they go there is no genocide. So maybe that's where I want to start. Like, how is it that there's a conversation that's going all over the world about a thing that isn't actually happening? And I don't mean like isn't happening like some people feel it is, some people isn't. No, it isn't actually happening. So how did this start?
Yeah, so I think that over the last 10 years, a raft of genuinely very talented grifters in South Africa have snake oil salesmen this idea without saying it themselves on the last step. So someone like Owen Stewart's is very clever. He will twist the data and decontextualize facts to make it look like something particularly bad is happening. And then he will go on Jordan Peterson and Tucker Carlson, and he'll never say there's a white genocide. He'll stop just before, and then let people fill in where he's directing it to. Similarly, most of
Jessica,
taking place on the dark place formerly known as
do you mean this tattoo or
by Elon Musk.
do you
And
mean
on Twitter, these big established
my
public
years of
voices
service?
who need to have a degree of tetheredness to reality stop just short of saying this is the worst thing ever. Like with these race laws, they stop just short of saying there are more race laws than apartheid, therefore it's worse than apartheid. But then they let the anonymous bot troll campaigns on Twitter, which are sometimes just used for idiots, but sometimes paid for campaigners, jump to the last level. So there was this X account called Twitterboss, there still is, and Elon Musk reposted a lot of his stuff.
That's the brain I'm using.
Lying about a bunch of
Dynamic.
things. But what happened was the public figures did the groundwork to allow the lunatics to then lie on top of what they're saying. And then it ended up being Musk repeating and sharing these kinds of nonsense ideas all the way into the White House. And then when Trump went executive order time, that's when it became around the world.
Yeah, that's when it became.
Because frankly, I just feel like Trump and his right wing love a white victim. All of their immigration
I've been
stuff in
tattooing for
America
over
is they're terrified of the brown person. Be terrified
15
of the
years
brown
now.
person speaking. Yeah. They love a white victim. But it's hard to find white victims, guys. The history of the world makes it pretty hard to find white victims. But if somebody could come along and concoct the downtrodden, tragic, in danger white person, beleaguered in South Africa, and we can save them, then that ticks all of the boxes for that kind of campaign. And I don't know if you noticed, but it seemed like every single time for about 2 months Trump had a bad day, he then tweeted about South Africa. We were the punching bag to change the narrative, to distract away, to misdirect from the other stuff that was going on in his life that would look dangerous. So I think that we were useful fodder. The way that's like our diplomats, Ibrahim Rasool, and then Special Envoy Mabisi Jonas, suddenly got covered by Breitbart News and Fox News. They were turned into these dangers because it was very useful to fit the kind of MAGA narrative.
What happened 10 years ago? What am I missing? I get that we're saying something started, but why did it start? I'm still intrigued by the why of it all. Do you know what I mean? Like, what is the purpose of starting a campaign to say there's a genocide where there is none? Do you know when was the first time you heard about it?
None, I was the same.
When did you get the email?
No, I'm being serious.
None.
No, but I'm being
None
serious.
was
Though. When was the first time you ever heard about like white genocide in South
It
Africa?
was this year. It was when everyone caught on to it. I almost felt like I was part of living in another country because I looked outside and I was like,
That's
where is
crazy.
this thing happening? And I checked on my neighbor, she was fine. But she hasn't been fine for a long time. Many times. 4 cats, 1 lady. I was like, what? If it were to happen, it would start at number 43. But it wasn't happening. But I get what Dan is saying. I think there's a lot of victimhood that's going on. And a lot of what people don't speak about in South Africa is the minority that oppressed the majority is still playing victim 30 years later. That was the surprising thing. And I was saying to you the other time, I was like, the genius of this whole concocted plan was for the former oppressor, who still oppresses some other people, to get an apology and a guarantee of nothing will happen to you. Where they've never apologized. They showed me how organized.
Where are you
they
from,
were.
Jessica?
They have universities, they have unions, they have
Yeah, he's doing well.
everything.
They speak collectively.
They speak collectively, but they've never said collectively.
He's a strong guy.
When apartheid was declared a crime against humanity, we are sorry for what our culture and our nation has contributed to the people of this country. But they could organize and say we're neutral.
Can I tell you what I find interesting is I'll do shows like in random places, right? Some more random than others. But let's say if I'm in Australia somewhere where a lot of South Africans will come. And it's a broad range of South Africans. But I have yet to meet a South African who left South Africa during apartheid or maybe even afterwards who says they supported it.
Yes, that's what I was about
Guys,
to say.
I have yet, let me tell you something, and I don't even mean this in like that, this was a system that was well run, it was supported, I mean,
Who voted for this?
I'm just like,
Where are they?
yo,
Like, where are all the people
guys,
who have to have voted? I can't find a guy.
I can't find 20 of them. Even the people you're talking about who are now leading these like pro-Afrikaner, and like extreme. Because I mean, we've got to be careful. Like, you can be pro-Afrikaner, but not be like a heavy nationalist. And so there's like a split there. You know what I mean?
100%, yeah.
But even the groups that are running far right leaning, if you say to them, do you support apartheid? Then they go, I never. That was a terrible, terrible time. And I never, so even then, I didn't. I had a picture of Mandela on my wall.
What, the Rivonia trial picture? He was in jail for 27
Yeah, I'm just like,
grainy old picture. The one that you get at Robben Island in the street in the quarry.
And they're like, I would have voted for him 3 times.
I would have. Mandela was a great man. So I like this is the thing that gets me, and maybe that's what we need to spend our time digging into. It's going to be fun. It's like
The African accent.
no, it is a great accent actually.
100%.
But it's like, you know, Dan, when you talk about like white victimhood, it's been interesting seeing how this story stitches across the Atlantic Ocean, stitches across, you know, like across the top of the African continent. Everywhere in the world, people have a story of being, you know, subjugated, oppressed, something. It's the story as old as time, right? But some of them are like straight up just pillaging, as my friend Eugene likes to say. Big fan of pillaging. No, there was a lot of pillaging. But then there's a few instances where people were actually like oppressed because of who they were.
Systematic.
Yeah, like systematically oppressed, right? It's interesting how the label of victimhood, or like the cult of victimhood, gets to be worn most proudly by the people who are generally the perpetrators in these stories. So here's something I found interesting. We like to think of Trump as being an outlier, because Donald Trump
Yes, I did watch.
is the one who rescued.
I think it was 3 years ago.
It was actually 59. I don't know why they didn't count it properly.
It was 59,
It was
right?
59.
Yeah, I always thought it was 59, then people started saying 49 at
I
the
don't know.
airport. Maybe 10 changed their mind. I don't know. But okay, the 49 or the 59 who were rescued. Of course,
Yeah, the refugees.
a lot of people in America were saying to me like, oh my God, Trevor, it must be so strange for you seeing, I mean, like Donald Trump, and I was like, it's not that strange, considering that Bill Clinton's administration gave thousands of visas to white South Africans only just before we had our first elections. Just think about it for a
That
second.
was open to escape, yeah.
Just think about it for a second. South Africa had just become a democracy. The world stage had agreed that apartheid was a crime against humanity. The whole world had done this. But just before the election, Bill Clinton's administration, not Donald Trump, Bill Clinton's administration rescued 2,000 white South Africans because they were like, hey man, we know that you were the bad guys, but we've got to help you escape from this situation.
Because now there's about to be different blood in the bloodbath.
But you see what I'm saying? Like I'm just like,
Bloodbath had already happened. And now they're like, well, there might be white blood in this bloodbath.
but there's never been, okay, maybe I'm wrong, but there's never been. Dan, I don't want to put you on the spot. As a white. As a white.
Don't worry, it's part
Someone
of
had
my...
to say it.
As part of my training,
True genocide.
every morning I recite the names of every white person who has ever died in South Africa. So you can ask me about any white death.
So let me ask you this. Maybe there's something I don't know about. Like when you are hanging out with white people alone, because you live in Cape Town, or you spend a lot of time there, very white there, right? Not good or bad, just very white. When you're hanging out with like a group, like when white people are alone in South Africa, do they think genuinely that they are being targeted? Like honest question.
I think that...
For being white.
Yes, I think many white people do. I will say that all my friends know my politics. So they're on, like all of my friends are pretty much my politics. So in my friendship circles, no one is saying, oh, it's so hard, it's so horrible, it's so terrible. But I know because I've run WhatsApp lines when I was on 5FM, which is a historically white radio station.
Yeah.
I had a breakfast show host there, my TV show, the Cordo Report, and everything, that a lot of people do feel that way, but it's some kind of fear of the destabilization of their privilege. Because the fear is, as more and more black people become middle class, more and more black people become, get to the same level of wealth, And then white people think, okay, but what if I one day can't get a job? One day BE does this, whatever. And I wanted to circle back on this actually to your question of what happened 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I think that what happened was South Africa had the 2010 World Cup. We waka-wakaed our way into our peak.
Yes.
Jacob Zuma came to power.
Yeah.
And finally, there was a black president who was all the bad things that white people thought black people were about.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's what happened. The state capture stuff, the Zuma corruption stuff, suddenly the Rainbow Nation was popped. Nobody says that anymore. Nobody says Rainbow Nation anymore. That beautiful brand thing, the Desmond Tutu, the Mandela, the Nyembeki.
Yeah.
And then 2010 happened. K9's Wave Your Flag was much better than Shakira's Waka Waka. We all know this to be true. But those two songs happened. The World Cup was incredible. We did the Dream Rainbow Nation thing. And then service delivery started to collapse. Rampant corruption started to happen. The police started to fall apart. The whole country started to go, things are not going very well. But many white South Africans had the dangerous black president they'd been terrified of since the beginning. And that opened a space.
That's interesting.
It opened a space for white grifters to then go, we're in trouble now. They're coming for us. They're persecuting us. White economic empowerment, Val Pottinger. All of this was fodder for white grifters to say, they're coming for us. We told you. We know the blacks were nice before this. And we couldn't show that Thabo Mbeki was bad or Mandela was bad or Tutu was bad. But now things are objectively getting worse for lots of South Africans. Here's the black boogeyman we were telling you is coming. And then Malema came along, and this is more black boogeyman stuff, the terrifying black boogeyman. And from there, it evolved to where we are now.
It's interesting you say that because you and I laugh about this a lot. But there's a thing that happens with people, and I mean, everyone can be guilty of this, by the way. I think any group. But you know where, let's say as black people, you're hanging out together, and you'll say something about a black person, let's say who's in power. So, you know, you go like, Jacob Zuma, this guy. And then you'll find someone will step into that fray, and they'll say something where you're like, wait, we didn't mean it like that.
Yeah, I know it's bad, but
yes. No, but you know what I mean. But they'll say something. You know, you'll be like so much corruption. So they'll be like, yeah, but I mean, what do you expect? They like that.
Yeah.
You're like, who's they? Well,
Are you saying a black person?
yeah, no. What I'm saying,
Black company.
what I'm saying is, T, what you've revealed, which is really interesting, is black people have the ability to separate an action that is black culturally and the person that is black that is just doing something. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What I've noticed in a lot of these conversations is there are synonyms that are used for action. So even when people are talking to Donald Trump in the White House, even when people are on the news or talking to Piers Morgan, even when they're going like, look, there might not be a genocide, but the crime. Crime has become a synonym for black.
Just like the community.
Same as corruption. Yes, corruption is also a synonym for black.
The community.
Violent
The
crime.
townships.
Yes.
Like it's all wink nudge.
It's another way to say black.
Exactly. It's like the way that Black Lives Matter evolved into DEI, which they're now so obsessed with. It's code
black.
word, and it's usually code word for the K word or the N word.
Yeah.
Like,
But it is though.
Yeah.
But can I just say, as a preference,
the sequel.
yes,
Exactly.
but I will say, just as a preference thing to anyone who's listening, I would prefer if you called the crime than the N word. If you meet me in the streets and you say like, look at the crime walking across the street, I'll be less offended.
under your regime, get people be so boring.
I'm just saying.
What up, my crime word? No, you can't afford.
Already sounds better.
You know what?
And now it sounds like you're asking for trouble. Crime, please.
These crimes.
South Africa.
You know, growing up,
I'm
we
from
always
South
used to
Africa.
when people come to our house, we would wait for the moment when they leave, and then we would all gossip about them.
Yeah.
To make them call our mom because we have our house back again.
Yes, and I do live in South Africa.
We've never
DNA.
let people and said, guys, let's gossip about them. We had to make nice, very quick. If I come, I would snap. We had to make nice very, very quickly. As soon as that ended, you have to be nice to the governing body for the child to enter a school. You have to be nice to show that you're not like that kind of a crime in an estate, in a housing community, we have to be nice. So the ones that could played nice to be in those communities, the ones that couldn't afford played nice to work in those communities. We never had time to gossip as a family. So when it happened with Jacob Zuma, when we all said, hey, but that guy.
Exactly.
And then the other people heard us and said, that guy where? They said, no, it's not our guy.
Yeah.
It's just a guy who's doing wrong. And then the whole conversation got lost and muddy. And let's not also forget, the people were 15 when this conversation started in 2010. They were now 20.
Yeah.
Joining the fray, and they had no idea about, because when you try to remind kids about apartheid, you're wasting their time. But if you say, now you know 15-year-old started how the difference between Jacob Zuma and Nelson Mandela? Nelson Mandela is a guy on a nose. Jacob Zuma is real.
And then there are so many people who I talk to. One of the things that disturbs me the most in my work is
Maar wel leuk sterven, joh.
I don't know what the PRC was.
Yes.
So like if I was
Hoe heet weer?
for a day, number one, every South African is a teaching mistake. Number two, we overhaul the service. Because you need, there's too much Cold War in there, there's too much, why do we
The Vietnam War, you're talking about the Vietnam War. This is quick notice in the whole time. It almost happened. But it didn't. It almost happened. Hey, Dan, it almost happened. Oh, this guy. You know how close they were, Dan? People put Guy Fawkes in the syllabus because it almost happened. It almost happened, Dan. It almost
is, but like my fundamental point is that even like I think a lot about how we only know the headlines of apartheid, settlers and and understood. Yeah, but even now, younger generations don't know that stuff.
Yeah.
And in a country which is so systemically defined, even today, by all of that, people who don't know that stuff have an inability to truly appreciate the dynamics that exist within our country. And the only way to help people to understand is to say, hey, we did this deal at the end of the project because we wanted to find out what's going on. The apartheid government was burning tens of thousands of pieces of paper, the records of their users. Some people made a choice that we would offer amnesty in exchange for finding out what already happened, finding the closure. Some people disagreed on that, like Foucault's family, for example. Because right now, an inquiry has been opened up into why the NPA didn't pursue court cases against some people from the project who did not get amnesty. They were supposed to be pursued.
Right, so let's just take a step back. So for those who don't know, let's just break this down for them. Because you're right, a lot of people don't know. A lot of people will be listening to this, watching this and going, wait, what happened?
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of the world thinks of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission as the gold standard in terms of a peaceful transfer of power.
Yes.
It is considered the gold standard of the bloodless revolution. Yes. Right? So nowhere in the world, and this is true, nowhere in the world has there been a revolution where a minority who oppressed the majority gave up power, but then didn't see mass bloodshed. This is just, it's no revolution. Yes, right? And everyone looks at the TRC as the gold standard. They go, wow, what an amazing experience. A country that experienced so much trauma and so much pain. Together and say, we're going to speak about this, we're going to air it.
He's having one afterwards.
It's going to be pretty serious. And regardless of how painful
Zie je hoe bier geven.
we're going to speak about
Ik kan het
the
voelen.
aspect of it is. Those who come forward to admit what they did, revealed from the shadows, they will be given amnesty. And that's it.
Het was de eerste in het omgeving.
Aha.
Het was de eerste keer toen ik die in de kant voelde.
Ja. Hoe zei je ze eerst in je wat hè?
Het was de eerste keer toen was kom die met jou.
Oh.
Zo lang, maar hoe dat daarmee die in.
Ja.
And so that's how the story, yeah, that's how the story sort of ended. 100% it was, what a beautiful story. These people admitted mass killings and mass tortures and all of these things.
Ano niya sa may wala mock up. May waka din na
They're the
yun.
ones who are left alive. And then when they left,
Ano yun na George to kung da.
Een keier.
No, but what I'm saying is, I'm saying, but see, that story, yeah, that's it. And they go back to their privilege. Yes, but I'm saying that you're adding to the story. Yes.
Zijn we golven?
You know, like happily ever after. That's where it ends.
Kom nog recht moest jongens, zo ver hè.
Je ook nog, ik kom in de kaart, ik kan me dan.
Ja?
Everything was perfect.
Ja.
To make sure that the revolution doesn't continue, we have to serve the young of the revolution. One thing that system, it has still had remnants of
En voor me gezegd, ik kan nog geld sturen. Ik kan klaar deposit.
Dus je moet zoeken.
kids that were first wave to go inside these privileged schools and all these schools had the accent of the people that they were supposed to.
Als je hem reeds is in een weer, dat wil ik chappen.
Yeah, now you're saying cricket where
Ja,
that
dat
goes
is klom.
Ik heb nog punters kijk.
Zo?
Punters. Punters app download from. En dan kan je haken.
Step into my world and stand on your sister.
Kijk, someone is mildly too quick.
Like, yo, guys, if I was here, I would have fought for that man. I would have fought for that man. The way, can I tell you something? The way, I know this is a tangent, but the way Leon's sister exposed racism in South Africa, I think
I don't know beauty kasi drama na
Leon's sister
fire extinguisher.
Oh,
showed
Pero
us how much was still buried in South African culture. That man could have edited out every K-word, every racist, that man went as an Indian. And that people without being a person of color. Yes, but so he went as an Indian. And then people like, blackface was, no, it wasn't black, it was in disguise. There's a difference. Blackface is mocking a person for their race. This man went in disguise. He went as an Indian person to a white person's world. He went as a black person to a white person's world. He went as a white person. He did everything. But what he showed me, even as a child, I won't lie. TRC was one thing. Leon Schuster for me was one of the most informative experiences I had about South Africa. Because I was like, oh, this is what's happening when no one knows what when no one speaks. This is how they speak to their workers, special attendants. This is how they speak to somebody when they think something's gone wrong. That was sorry, but I interrupted. But that to me, that was like.
Can I add to the answer before we continue? Besides, like, I understand, like, the optics of it right now is still here. But as non-white people growing up at the time, the first time we ever saw a non-white person getting one over a white person was in a Leon system. The first time we ever saw a non-white person winning a situation, whatever the situation is, was in a Leon system. And yes, they say like Mama Bone is like this. But the pranks are flawless in my opinion.
The pranks are flawless. Yeah, so the integration and the mix happened quite quickly, and you come from that generation, you and I, where if you went to a multiracial school or mixed school or some model school and your parents have a different accent than yours, but your parents, when they're moving around the world, or around South Africa, their world, they could teach you more black more than you could. Yeah. So that became, that generation grew up. And then that generation sang in unison to the choir of black people like Arab, which means the government is messing up everything, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, there's many things about this government that you can say. But one thing, it's integrated and made lots of people rich who are not black. There's a lot of things that the South African government can do. And I always say, drive around in the road, on the highway, in a suburb, and see a car that's a plumber, a person that's an electrician, and see if there's a black name in that van, in that truck. There was a system that people understood very well when apartheid ended, that there was a lot of shortcomings when it comes to service delivery. In fact, the government itself will struggle to maintain their own infrastructure. So we will maintain their infrastructure and create businesses that make money. I swear now, the blackout that Africa caused has caused to have many more white millionaires in business than there are black millionaires. From the solar business. From the solar, I don't know any. From the power generation. I don't know any black solar in South African form. But the same people were like, this thing is rubbish. They were the ones trying to do 50,000 rand climbing to make this thing happen for you. Then I'm like, yeah, but it's the same everywhere. It's like, even the police are being helped by private schools that's owned by white people. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I've had this conversation so many times, and I'm like, this country is so weird that we can watch documentaries and see black people police by white people in the 70s and the 80s. And I'm saying, what's so different now when you move around forward? It's been privatized. Yeah, but it's different. Yeah, so I'm talking about the guard that protects you because they're not allowed to carry firearms in the first place. So you gotta say that you think you are. The response is armed, meaning the person that comes. Let me ask you this. Do you think, because it's interesting to see these perspectives, because when I listen to the conversations that are being had, and I see what people are discussing, I notice two very different positions that people have to take. And it's really interesting. It sort of goes back to what you said at the beginning of the conversation. I noticed when we went on Piers Morgan, black South Africans have to start every conversation with, white people, you're not in danger. We swear we have nothing against you. We love you. We love you very much. We love you so much. We love you. We want you here. We love you. We love you. Please, very much. We love you. Cyril Ramaphosa, South Africa's president, had to go to the White House and go, we love white people. We love them. Everyone is welcome in our country. We love them.
We love them. You know, Trump is like, we hate the whites, we hate the no, we love you, we love you. We love you. And the same with Disney. Yeah, you can say it. I wish we had a plane to Disney. I wish we, imagine that level that you're coming from, right? And these are people who, for the most part, I mean, you know the statistics, you know like a lot of numbers. But if you look at for the most part, those are the people who had less than nothing and were designed that way, right? But their role is to coddle white South Africans and say, hey, look, you're safe and you're going to be, you know. But it's interesting how. And again,
Thanks, I Spy Buddy. Thank you.
there are many cool white South Africans here.
Russian guy, I can't pronounce your name, man.
And your brother, wherever he is, no, podcast called Sodom. No, but you know, and this is the reason I hop on this, not to be like politically correct or anything. I think it's because I never want to be in a position where people allow us to try and conquer ourselves. Of course, you know what I mean? There are tons of white South Africans, tons, who are proudly South Africans, who stay in the country, who contribute, who integrate, who speak Zulu, dance. You know what I mean? Like things that, and people are like, dance. I'm like, no, guys. There was a cultural stigma that came with many of these things that is now being adopted by a different generation, which is beautiful. You know what I mean? But there's still a world where white people go, the crime that happens to them seems to be more significant than the crime that was always happening. Like people will go, you know, crime wasn't just bad during apartheid. Then I go, guys, but the whole country was a crime.
Yeah,
Crime scene.
and crime wasn't bad in your area. During apartheid is what you actually need, because one of the wildest things about apartheid is they didn't do a census of black South Africans.
Dank je meneer Klaassen.
Found out even how many people there were in South Africa, including people of color, in 1996. In 1996, it was the first census.
Oh, you're lying.
For real? And I have reread that census so many times because it's the first time you find out how many South Africans have no schools, no hospitals, no schools. No. Because white South Africa had no interest in finding that out. One, because they weren't going to service it. But two, because they didn't want to let anybody else find out how bad it was. So this is another thing like the TRC. As important as the TRC finding what had happened in South Africa was that census in 96 found out what South Africa was then for the first time. And we didn't know
Zijn
that.
dan nou weer niet voor de neven om op te
But
komen.
a lot of people don't even know what it was going on in that census. So what I do on the show quite often is I just go, okay, well, let's just talk for a second. Guess how many white South Africans are noticed in 1996 representing black South Africans. And the stats are unreal and the disparity. I'm just trying to remember from the top of my head, but it was something like, the one I can remember is there were like 6 million black people, or black, 6 million black people living in formal dwellings in 1996. And there was less, that's, just to be clear, when people say informal,
Yeah. We're not talking about like, we're talking about it is a non-house.
totally. And how many white South Africans? I think there was like less than 2,000. Like, and people don't know that. And that's what I say again, like, you need to understand, 30 years is so long. No, fucking not.
Yes, nothing.
Not when that is what you're trying to recover from. And I know that some people think that I back for the ANC, which I obviously don't if you look at all my material.
But your church says otherwise.
This is the Springbok and nothing else.
Comrade Dan. Comrade Dan is Yes, he gives you. Comrade Dan, now they try.
Revolutionary greetings.
We're going to continue this conversation right after this short break.
Something that's so important to understand about even looking at today's stats of how many people live here, there, whatever, is that if you know how bad it was in South Africa in 1996, to then see how much good Mandela's ANC did. The RDP rollout of houses was one of the most record-breaking housing programs in human history. And if you look now, they stopped doing it, and during Becky saying everything started to go wrong, and then Zuma and didn't run across it, there was virtually nothing in the state. Pathetic and awful, and they've done terrible things that we can't forgive them for. But consider where they got from 96 to about 2006. Unbelievable building of the country. From dire inequality, which made so many South Africans think they could have never imagined happening. And we need to know that. We all need to understand what was in that census in 1996. to get that in this rainbow nation to think while the TLC was happening, that's the country that apartheid and settler colonialism left.
Well, you know what it goes to, and I think this is a conversation that a lot of people struggle with. People don't understand that there is a distinct difference between the apology and then, in some way, shape, or form, the retribution or someone amending, or you know what I mean? The restitution. Where's the restitution?
Exactly. And I definitely see there's a quote in the movie to attribute it to, but I'm not sure they did it. So yeah, they said that South Africa is what happened when forgiveness was given before guilt.
Ja, ek loei hom lekker my bro.
Forgiveness was given before guilt was admitted. And that like statement alone speaks to every single thing you guys have been speaking about.
Yeah. One thing. Yeah, it's a, but it's not even just like even if you say everyone said sorry, you know, I think of some of the lessons that couples therapists and relationship therapists. Often, if you read the books, they always talk about something very specific, and they go, in a relationship, if you're with somebody and they wrong you, right? So we talk about like infidelity, and I think like Esther Perel has in some of her books and stuff. They go, a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that the infidelity ends when the person admits to it and seeks forgiveness. But that's only the beginning of the journey. Because now what has to happen is the person who has wronged their partner has to spend all their time, and I know this sounds crazy, spend all their time showing their partner that they haven't forgotten their the transgression.
It's a rebuild.
You literally, and people will hear this and be like, wait, what? But think about how many times when on TV or in real life you've heard people who have some sort of infidelity in a relationship go, you know, like their partner brings it up and it's like, oh, this again. I already said sorry. It's like, yeah. You know why the person brought it up again? Because you don't anymore. And if the person feels like if the person feels like you have gotten over it before they're going to bring it up.
Your example is actually really good because something that I think about is that white South Africans have never earned black South Africans' trust. No, that is another part of the post-TLC conversation, and apology is not enough.
White people in South Africa couldn't say Mbeki.
Yeah.
That shit, guys, that shit used to blow my mind.
You have to work harder than that.
The president of the country, his name was Thabo Mbeki.
No clicks.
No, nothing. Nothing. Do you know what I mean? Not Mama Chamsang. No. Mbeki. People without fail would go, hey, yeah, President Mabeki. Then you'd go like Mbeki. Mabeki. Then you're like Mbeki. They'd be like, I can't say it.
Of course you can.
Then I go, but let some tennis player come along who's at Wimbledon
From Eastern Europe.
and they'll have a name that, all consonants, no vowels. I've never seen these people struggle. You know where you're like, so you can say that name, but Mbeki, why can't you say, can you say Can you say Be? But it felt like, it always felt like to me, it wasn't so much that they couldn't say it.
Bother.
It felt like it was like, no, it's not even wouldn't bother. It felt like
It was a silent revolution. It was a silent protest.
it felt like they were giving something up.
Yeah.
I want to make your sounds.
Yeah.
And that's why genuinely, like when I look at my brother's generation, my brother's 20 years younger than me, my brother, right? Yo, the kids that he goes to school with, they don't bat an eyelid at any of this. Mbeki, nothing to them. Genuinely nothing. Genuinely nothing. When I look at like young white kids growing up now, I can't speak for all of them, but I know from my generation already, like when we went to school versus the kids now. Yo, bro, these kids, so many of them don't see it as an inferior thing because they've seen rich black, they've seen poor black, they've seen corrupt black, they've seen this, you know what I mean? Like
They've also had famous black people in their lives.
I never thought of it.
Which is a really, really big deal. It's like really, really important to understand the extent to which celebrity agenda sets what we should bother to learn, do, and care about. Like the fact that young white South Africans know Mapimpi and they know and Oxen Chair and they can talk about all of those things. Rabada right now at the cricket. I don't know when this comes out, but some Americans, you don't know what I'm talking about with this anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Tyler's a good one.
Tyler's another good one.
Just that alone, you're right.
People make the effort for their heroes, and white South Africans are black heroes now. It's some.
En hoe
And that is,
een
makes
rijden.
a huge, huge, huge difference to your understanding of what is worth putting your
Kijk, als
effort
één,
into. Actually learning to care
als
about.
twee in trein
Yeah,
rijdt,
but I think South Africa became a poster child for diplomacy.
Huh?
We almost had to, as a country, put our best foot forward.
Ja, ik word auto,
And the
ja.
ones who could speak the better English had to be sent out there in the world to go and apologize on behalf of the transgressors. And two systems were adopted to make sure that that happens. So our government stopped retribution for restitution. BE is not an ANC manufactured program. It's an apartheid system program. It existed before for white people to benefit from government contracts. Tenders were not invented by the ANC. They were invented by the apartheid government.
Well, I mean, they pay for every government, if we're fair.
Yeah, but no,
Every
I'm
government in the
saying,
world has a tender system
Yeah, but
to... Yeah,
No, but
I'm
you
saying-
keep
oh,
forgetting
but what
about
you're saying is in South Africa, a lot of people think tenders were invented by the ANC.
Yeah.
Because
The word
because-
entrepreneur did not exist during apartheid.
Yeah, but
But
tenders...
entrepreneurs exist.
Yes.
But like, what is colonialism and apartheid if not white economic empowerment? That's exactly what it is. And that's actually what I feel like more South Africans should start doing, is using the same language to show the comparison.
But
And
can
what
can I tell you what it is? Sorry, I'll tell you this before you go forward.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll tell you this. This is where I think a lot of these things actually start falling down. And I think it's interesting because there are parallels in the United States. For the most part, it boils down to marketing and it boils down to implementation, right? I think it was Lil Wayne who said, real G's move in silence like lasagna.
Lasagna.
Yeah.
Or La Nyaza in the Eastern Cape.
You know what's so profound about that when you think about it is during apartheid, right? During any of these systems in America even, they weren't as explicit as people think about saying we are helping you because you are white. They denied people because they were black, but they didn't say to white people, we're helping you because you are white. So what they said was, hey guys, there's a system called welfare. If you cannot afford to buy food and you cannot afford to have a house, the government will help you. There's a system called, what is a system? There's Medicare, there's Medicaid, there's healthcare, there's pension. What is pension? No, when you're old, the government will look after you because you need to be looked after. Everyone deserves to be looked after. Then what they would do is, they would just exclude black people from everyone. So now people grew up in a world thinking everyone gets looked after because they deserve to be. You are a single mother, you are a widow, a widower, you're an orphan,
You're injured, you're disabled.
disabled. It doesn't matter. Everyone deserves to be looked after. And then they exclude it from everyone. Then what happens? Laws start to change, right? So in America, what happened? They said, okay, no, now black people can go to the school. Now black people can go swim in a swimming pool. Immediately, from that moment, you see it in American history, you see it in South Africa. I grew up with public pools, right? When I was growing up, it was batshit crazy to have a swimming pool in your house, guys.
Yeah.
I don't think you understand. Even now when I look at people, I go like, guys, you know when you fly, you're landing in any city in the world and you look down, people don't understand how crazy it is to have a body of water in the backyard of your house that is for your sole consumption, just you and your family, have 50,000 liters of water
At your disposal.
for your occasional use. Guys, when I was growing up, there was one pool in the neighborhood and it was run by the government and everyone went there and we swam together and then we all went home because you don't swim every day and that's life, you know what I mean? But it was interesting to see when they said black people are going to come to the pool, people then said, we're getting our own pools, and then what happened? The pools all shut down. Our business, I don't even think there's a, yeah, you're right. I don't even think there's a public pool anywhere that I know of.
So just on what you're talking about just now, is one of the most extraordinary acts of welfare to pull people out of poverty was in the 1950s, when the apartheid government dedicated nearly all of its tax revenue to pulling poor white Afrikaners out of poverty. And that was massive welfare grants, unemployment grants, job seekers grants, illness and childhood and old age grants. And when I talk about white economic empowerment, and I've covered it in this way specifically, a lot of people try to like muddy the waters and grey what happened during apartheid. And so what I do is I go, okay, let's go and look at the apartheid government's official record of the policies that they did. You can't fight with me on that. It's on the record. It's in our government policy. That is what they did systematically from 1948 all the way through until about the 1960s. And if they were providing food parcels or if they were doing construction or whatever, they were only giving the tenders to white Afrikaner-owned companies. And so if you look at some of the biggest companies in South Africa today, those are companies that the apartheid government made to gain Afrikaner wealth. But it goes further back than that, even pre-apartheid. In the 1920s, more and more big companies were hiring skilled black South African workers, particularly on the mines and the construction in and around Johannesburg. White Afrikaner in particular, unskilled workers protested and went on strike. And in response to their vote, the apartheid government the pre-apartheid government, Union government, made public work infrastructure programs. Like they built things like the dam, and they only had white people. Yep. They made public works infrastructure projects to create jobs only for white people.
And in fact, that land was donated.
Yes.
Was owned by a single person. You guys can have this.
Hey, yo.
So when you're talking
Wat is hy
about
ink?
America,
Wat?
what
Pyn.
I find fascinating in American politics, as you will know, is that very often if the left says a brand is thing, the right will twist it on the same branding.
Sê kom maar, dink ek moet maar van die karre trok
Stop the steal, stop the
Okay.
whatever.
So as mense wil hom nie nou
In South Africa, if we started saying white economic empowerment is our history, people would go, oh, it's just like BEE. Except BEE doesn't go nearly as far in the disempowerment of one group of people or the benefiting of another. If we all just started saying WEE over and over again, people would understand what apartheid's actual economic project was.
So jy ooit dinge sa eie kompressor
You
getaan, hè?
do need to learn about the crime. You
Is die Everest
learn
ook?
about the aberrations of
Is die Everest
justice
ook?
and the violations of people's human rights. But you also need to deal with the economic superpower of creating white wealth. And if we as a country started to think about apartheid like that, we would better understand that redress laws and policies like BEE now both work, need to happen, and are helping distill this power. It's funny you say that. I was having a conversation with a gentleman in London who had left South Africa. South Africa.
Nooit het geklik out, hè?
And he goes, like, oh, Trevor, you know, I left South Africa.
I want to see the world
we had to leave, and you know, it's just terrible. And I was like, yeah, you know, crime is really bad. Corruption, we can't get under control. We've got to work on these things. He's like, yeah, you know, it's just really bad. And you know, and I just feel like
Die ding man, Ebras, is jy maak vir die man. Ons in die aard, Ebras aard.
Like, I just be honest, Trevor.
Was nie vermaak het gewees, so.
To have black economic empowerment, like what do you say?
Een of twee,
You know, and come on, man. Why don't
drie
you just say,
karre
start from
gesprek.
scratch? Everyone's equal. We just start from scratch. And he
Yo.
said in a really earnest way. He said,
Gesig.
isn't it making it worse when a government says that black people or people who are Indian or like they should get help just because of what happened? But my kids weren't around for that. So my kid goes to school with a kid who's black. They started at the same time, so they have the same footing. And I was like, okay, this is an interesting way to think of it. Now let me ask you a question. Would you be willing to give your entire bank account and your housing away to a black family? So now I'm going to ask you, as a white South African, to give a black family your house and your car and your money in the bank, give it all to them. And you went, no, I would never do that. And I said, okay, but why would you do that? It's not because I've worked for this. I said, okay, but now if I did take it all from you, if I took it all from you, talking from the first investment all the way, if I took it all from you, what would your problem be? He's like, no, you've taken everything I worked for. I said, yes, but your son is starting from scratch. So your son will make the money for you. Then he's like, no, but I mean, do you know how long he worked for this? And I can't just give it to you. And I have to, my son, I have to pay for him to go to school. And I said, okay. So now why is it that you are able to understand the power of the compound interest and the compound wealth that you have acquired over generations, and yet you're unable to acknowledge it for every black person who was never allowed to acquire any wealth from their generations? Most of us, imagine living in a world where most of us are the first generation of our families that ever tipped the needle above one. Most black families in South Africa live from zero, and all you did was, you didn't get to one. You just did this to get to the next month, and then it was zero, and then it went below zero, and then you just tried to get up, and then back below zero, and then you tried to get below. Most of us are the first generation of like excess, I would call it. But I think we're like a mega minority.
I can even do you one better.
You always want to want better. What kind of friendship is this, guys?
After the first elections in '94, that was the first generation of people to say and do what they like.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Just think about that for a
Say
second.
and do what you like. And people take that for granted. And I'm always thinking to
I wonder
myself,
who was the first black person who just like wiggled.
because like, yay,
Just and okay, just like the first. No, just okay. Think about this for a second. We take this for granted now. We all take this for granted. There was a time in South Africa, not a time, because a time makes it sound like black and white pictures.
yeah.
You know,
I know. And then also there was color, everything was
no,
good.
this is when there's color pictures.
Yeah.
There's color footage, color pictures. Black people couldn't walk in the streets randomly. If you shook the wrong way, you were taken away. Do you know what I mean? But now I want to know, because obviously there's very meaningful things. I'm sure some people like I'm going to school.
Is this how you purport the
This is
I just
I'm,
mentioned for the
this is
first
very
time.
sincere. Look,
But I can see how hard you are fighting.
no, this is very
Inside of you,
No.
his cheeks are battling.
this is very
his brain.
This is very
Just
sincere.
mentioned and I can see how hard you're working.
Look, at this. Some people were like,
let's do better.
some people
Made many a Russian men cry.
you know, some people like, I'm gonna go to school, I'm gonna start a business, but I wonder, there must have been some black people who were just like, because I know we think of it in a meaningful way all the time.
Wait,
You know how
mother
one
buy me
person
something they could
like,
please.
no repercussions. And I mean this in like in a sincere.
You do that for a living.
Yeah, but there was no comedy during
That's
our
what I'm saying. Yeah, we should know.
There was none.
Yes. We act as
What is it? They have the same rule of like the Bible. If three or more are gathered,
Yeah.
then
Of an island.
literally, but it was though. They said if like how many black people was it? If it
Yeah,
once you passed a certain amount of black people, they said there was a political gathering inherently.
You guys would be safe because it's 1.5 black people, 1.5 white people.
With this guy, with this shirt, with this shirt,
Undercover right there.
with undercut. My man, actually, this is a good question to ask you. Why do you think white people get almost double angry with white people who speak out? Because I've seen like black people, but they'll just go, yeah, you, whatever. You know, they run the gamut from you're delusional to you're a monkey, but it's the usual. Whatever. Then when you speak, hey, my man, let me tell you something. You make, and I won't say white people. In fact, I'll separate groups. You as a white person, when you speak, you make racists very angry.
No, uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable is an understatement,
Yeah,
bro.
sure.
And this guy gets death threats where I'm reading his comments like, yo. And you know where I'm like, hey, Dan. Yeah, no, here, my man. Yeah, man. Okay. Properly.
Yeah, so I believe that the most threatening thing to a white supremacist is not a person of color, it's a white person who disagrees with them. Because white people listen to white people instinctively more than they listen to people of other races. And I think that is true of all different kinds of intersections. Men listen to men easily in a way they don't listen to women. Straight people listen to other straight people in a way instantly that they don't listen to queer people.
So you think it's a power thing?
I think that if somebody has an agenda of trying to create a world in which black people like this, for white people to all agree with them with, the most threatening thing to them is a white person who goes, you're wrong. Because that white person can make other white people think, oh, maybe he is wrong. Maybe black people aren't actually like this. Maybe it's not like that. Yeah. When I talk, it's a direct threat to their project of convincing white people that black people are like this and a threat and whatever. And so, I mean, yeah, lots of death threats, lots of sometimes hilarious comments, to be fair, because most bigots online are not funny or intelligent. They just say dumb shit. But I was once called son of the soy, and that's objectively hilarious.
As in like soybeans.
Yeah, because son of the soil, son of the soy, and I was like,
okay.
you thought about that, that's good. Like you worked a little bit on that, that was nice.
Poetic. That's poetic. I like poetic racism.
You are my favorite hater.
Like poetic hatred, poetic racism, that's good.
Yeah.
I like that.
But I think also that for white people who disagree with me, I think some of them aren't doing a project for trying to convince everybody that black people are worse. Some of them just have deep-seated, unacknowledged racism within themselves that goes like this. When I'm called a race traitor, what it shows about the person accusing me of being a race traitor is that they conceive of races as teams. My team is the white team, Daniel, white, you're on my team.
Automatically.
And teams compete in sport.
Yeah.
So you need, as a white person down a white team, we need to be working together to look after our team. If you say anything that criticizes white people, or heaven forget the Democratic fucking Alliance, then you are a race traitor, which means that you are harming the white project, the white team's attempt to win, and you are strengthening another team's attempt to win. That is a fundamentally, subliminally racist conception of how race should be most important in the way that you build power and protect community. That you should sacrifice truth in order to protect the white team. Exactly. And so I think that with some white South Africans who don't like what I'm saying, you'll see in my comments, it's almost never a counterfactual or a counter-argument. No. It's all personal attack.
Yeah, to your
And it's,
they'll say,
and it's like, you're gay, you're a black lover, whatever that means. Like all of these different love them.
No, but you know what just drive down the street and see them on the side of the road and like,
Een kan gedamage of.
And the other thing that they love to say is like, yeah, of course you love Joe Bird.
I can't.
Which obviously is like a wink. You like black women, Dan. Or no, black men specifically, because people love accusing any man they dislike of being gay as though it's somehow a problem.
You hear that, Trevor?
And then...
I don't even know what. No, I don't know what we know. What are we talking about? You hit me with that and I'm like, I'm still trying to figure out what
I'm sorry, just to finish. The same conversation we're talking about is the Cape Town versus Joburg conversation.
Yeah.
So you said Cape Town very, very white, right? Predominantly Cape Town International is very white. Cape Town South Africa is not. They're completely different worlds. I have quite often, I think very reasonably, critiqued the housing crisis, the Airbnb crisis, some of the DA's decisions really in Cape Town, even in as though they've also done a lot of really good stuff and built an impulse city. If I criticize Cape Town, it's the same. It's racialized. They say you're a race traitor. They're saying Cape Town, but they mean white. Just like you were saying earlier, crime means black. Joburg means black, Cape Town means white. You're criticizing us, our team.
Why are you doing that?
Our home base in this game of tag.
But I guess the coalition has always wanted to adopt one single white person here and there to just kind of get through. And you might think it's funny, but you're actually right. Joe Slope was that for the
Aaron,
ANC.
saves.
Father Chasperson was that for Desmond Tutu. So there was always one where they're like, you need to roll with this guy. And when we started
Dan moet je
doing
afstreven.
comedy, to get the gigs that you want to get, you have to go. There's if someone says, go show up, you will come. The man does no, you have to go. Hard.
People like Joe Parker.
Sudah iman lain
This is a white comedian who was having to promise white companies that a black performer
Ze moet omhoog gooien, want ze lekker moe gooien.
not even like trust, he would have to vouch.
Koppig.
I promise you, this person is worth having at your event.
Je naar langzaam zitten.
And remember that
Dat is meer show.
yo, because it will show up with you, make the introduction, shake hands.
Just stand on top of
Dat is show.
Stand there with them.
Like literally, so
En
we would
daarna
go
anders.
No, sorry, I mean like act like a shower.
Oh yeah, fully shake hands.
Because they believe that
Aanvang
you
voor
are
some Frans komt in
irresponsible
Frans.
and
Yeah. Not Joe.
Nou, ik gedrink om papa te leren job.
When someone comes meet you in the car,
Ja,
you're
die
like,
was hier.
where's
Van
your...
oude stuk.
Yeah. Can you give a time? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Papa
100%.
op zijn Frans.
100%. So there's always that. There's always those facts that a person in 2025 can still quote fresh in their mind. You don't even need to go as far as apartheid is. But I always think people get lost in the stats. There's very simple stats in this country. White people are the minority. White people as a minority are the most educated as a number of people than black people. They have gainful employment more than black people. They outgun us. They outwealth us.
Dus zeggen,
They
je
outlive us.
people forget to outlive, which is really important. In terms of medical health care, in terms of nutrition, in terms of a lack of, because early childhood malnutrition is what stunts so many young black children. It's the first 5 to 6 years where you do not have enough food and all of the early childhood nutrition research in the world is about how people are physically stunted and mentally
It's a big one if you don't have enough.
Totally, yeah. But I mean, the other thing that we were talking about, the Piers Morgan thing is,
bank,
the safest
waarin niet wat je bra, bank succes
because of all the
zit.
infrastructure which creates secure neighborhoods,
Oh,
high walls,
so
electric
common
fences,
is
good,
not
safe working environments, good
Ah,
Yeah, well,
Insurance
sometimes
werkt met
firearms.
een policy,
Sometimes
6 maanden.
firearms. But
Is
then,
het nog 6 maanden niet?
the most vulnerable are black women. Because again, they're
Bruh.
most protected in the most destitute conditions very,
Most
very
exposed
often.
and most vulnerable at the same time.
Yes, and in all communities as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I always say to people, if you want to know what equality looks like, drive around
Yeah,
any
that is.
township, any black neighborhood,
Gaan
or
slapen,
anywhere where
kijk
there's
eens ik wakker.
black men
Gaan
gather
we
as a group, whether they're traveling together or going to
Zie
one
je die
spot,
kar weg, is het
and
ook
tell me what
zo.
5 pants
Yeah.
were just as an average between all of them in townships and in Squatter camp. Very small, very thin. That's malnutrition. You can't put them next to their counterpart who is of another race, especially white. And from muscle mass to the size of their pants, not being overweight, the size of their pants. Yeah, that's what tells you what the systematic system has been able to do and to survive and thrive under these conditions. How much they walk versus how much they exercise. Because if hard work was a real thing, most black women that spend most of their youth in transit from 4 in the morning up until 6 in the evening would be wealthy.
Yeah.
So I don't buy it any when everyone tells me, you know, you work hard. I'm like, I know plenty of people who that don't work hard at all. I know enough people just go on the highway and see who's in a bus and a minibus. And even
Maken die karkjes recht of wat?
now are working harder.
Yeah.
And they're still working and complaining about being underpaid and having no responsibility. And so finding themselves in this situation. When I go to some business classes and I'm in a group and I'm
Ego.
Are you teaching or you?
no, when I'm attending,
Ego komen
and
in
I'm
een way.
1 or 2 of 20, and I see how to identify a threat. And I'm like, hold on, you're talking about me here. I don't see a threat the same way.
Ik zeg voor me,
Yet
ik
my
raak, dus
other
ik is alles
counterparts who
gewoon.
are in this training course see a threat. When I'm driving, I'm not as paranoid. I don't look around at a black guy crossing a car.
But you know why?
Al loopt het al
You know why?
Het is alles
It
gewoon.
comes back to
Mhm.
the flattening of people.
Tell us more.
The
You like the
flattening.
flattening of people is. Yeah.
It's as simple as this, the flattening of
I
people.
listen to this podcast. I know.
I know. Why are you smoking me?
I'll tell you what. So I remember years ago, I read a paper that was breaking down what was commonly referred to as like a racist stereotype. You know where people go, all Asians look the same, right? And so someone went out and actually did
Nee,
that. And
je
they
voelt te
found
groot.
that to people who have never grown up with any Asian people around them, all Asians do look the same. Because you are unable to differentiate the features and you're unable to distinguish them.
So it's an exposure problem.
It's completely an exposure thing. And then they tracked it between people and found it's not that one race of people is inherently unable or able to identify another group. It's all just about exposure. So, I come back to South Africa. Black people were forcibly exposed in a section to white people, right? Because they had to work for them, they had to work in the mines, they had to work in the houses, they had to work, you know what I mean? But that's still a sliver of them. Many black people lived a life completely isolated from white people. And so many black people, funny enough, can't tell the difference. Like, half of my family cannot tell the difference between any of my white friends. Like, if I brought you, Dan, now to my house, I promise you some of them would go, oh, nice to see you again. I swear to God. Yes. I swear to God, they go, oh, nice to see you again. And I'll be like, no, this is not him.
I mean, I am a redhead, so it's
My friend, they'll just pick on that day in particular. There was something, what did she say something? Yes. What did he bend? It's something to your hair, something, hey, or it's your jacket. No, but and I used to be shocked, I'd be so shocked by how, like, half my family, then when I sat with them, I went, oh wow, these are all the people in my family who were never exposed to white people, right? And the flip happens. Now, you look at it through the lens of crime, right? You live in a country where, from your birth, you were kept away from black people. You were not shown black people except to say, like, this is the khafar, the danger, the threat, right? You were never introduced to black people. There was no meaningful interaction with black people. The country then becomes integrated. Now South Africa is a rainbow nation. We're all together, but we're not. We all know. So there was white flight. White people immediately fled to little enclaves where they're like, can we be safe here? And now there were fewer black people that they were interacting with. But now what happens? Where are the only black people they interact with? A beggar at the street corner? And somebody who's robbing them? Somebody who's serving them? Somebody who's... But these are not human interactions where you actually study another person's features and
You have
look
to
at
care.
it. It's not a space where you see the human on the other
There's no
side.
encounter, right?
Exactly. It's just like a fleeting encounter. And so the one thing I think of, and I know it's like a weird way to phrase it, but where I feel sorry or understanding for white people is I go, if your only interaction with black people is when they rob you, you will then think that crime is black. Because you, even apart from your actions, have been part of a system that didn't let you hang out with, you know what I mean? Because it's not like white people were allowed, you know what I mean, to be fair. White people weren't allowed to hang out with black people. And I always feel like one of the worst things that
It
happened...
was also a crime. That association was a crime.
One of the strangest things about racism that we forget is, and I think I will attribute this quote right, was
Oh,
Nelson Mandela
Nyongi.
said he learned in his time in Robben Island that one of the hardest aspects of racism,
Yes.
what basically he was saying,
Siya mo sa Samansela, dahil Firukon.
no, I'll tell you where it stops. I'll tell you
Kaya
where it stops.
siya mo sa Samansela, so makubani.
He spends a lot of time at Robben Island.
Makubani.
A lot of that pretty much all his time. And
Mana sa Bauda.
and it got to the point where Robben Island, they knew the administration could not let Nelson Mandela or any of his cohorts associate with the prison guard for longer than like a few months, because the prison guards started to see the citizens and they started to treat them differently. Because Mandela would greet them, ask them about their
Kaya
families,
tindirante,
talk about themselves,
kita
and
si
they
Gusti. Magat mo sa...
make it seem like Mandela was the saint guy. No, he was a human. That's what he was. He was just a human. And the other people who were in prison would want to do the same thing, to the point where the prison guards were
Azu copy.
what is that?
Wow, hindi ko run through lang. Yesu kapi yung...
The
Yes,
animal
yung
that he
kolon.
said he is.
Yeah, you see how you did?
No exposure.
Which allows for dehumanization.
No exposure. And so they did that. That's when Mandela said, in that process he learned that in a system
Sige, 15 rand.
only the prisoner, but also the guard. And that's the thing I think we never, like we really never get into in South Africa, and I see it
Sharp
in the US as
nyongi.
well, is that
Emotional, what a human.
also suffering from a system that was created by
Because more...
the
Eh, nagklendo kong fa... Siyo man ay niyo. Siyo man kami tayo ng Firukon.
being hijacked because you have the car that the people want. Now you must ask yourself why. I'm not saying maybe yourself.
Ito man kaya ya.
Being robbed.
Eh, yakin yung gulo sa teman ni Firukon.
You having the things is directly
Huh?
proportional to how much you
Maar ze was eerste man gehad, man.
The effect of the system is that you
Jee,
experience
het eerste man gehad.
you experience it as of your skin color.
because you're like, well, how else is happening? It's not happening to anyone else. It's how you're seeing it. And then the people you hang out with, they're also white. They also got wrong. They also got some kidnapped. They also, so you go, this happens. I was not impressed by it. I was like, this is
Sharp nyongi.
yeah.
It's crazy to find this game, they're angry at jumping walls and because they are on the other side of the
And
nation.
the miracle is that this animal was a baby back. Like, we never thought.
They do that?
Oh, wow.
That is awesome.
We didn't know that you could do that.
Leave it bij me, leave it.
They're cosplaying as a racist. That's what you guys do. I don't know, guys. I bring my kids here all the time.
But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so there were those situations where there were more movies about that and series, and the incentivization to create stereotypes is very huge in this country, in television. And I'm glad at my house we don't have
Everywhere.
mainstream television. But I'm saying in this country, everywhere. In this country, we live with full facts. You know, when I go to the US and watch your TV, I'm like, you guys are not watching TV. You're watching commercials the whole day. In Nigeria, we watch reality shows that support the stereotypes of how black single women behave, about how taxi drivers behave, taxi owners, that are women and taxi owners, and people are fighting for a home in the township. All those records are live and happening in seasons get renewed. Season 10 of people fighting for a family home in the township. So what about
So you know it's funny when you say that. I realize sometimes when you have these conversations with people, you just do this next time you're hanging out in a group of South Africans.
What, have 3 microphones?
If you want. You have to put it but like, if you sit around and have these conversations, you'll see. If you sit around and have these conversations, notice how differently people respond when you include yourself in being aggrieved, right?
Yes.
Depending on the color of your skin. It's a really crazy thing.
Yeah.
So, I will see a white South African say, and it doesn't always happen, but when it does, it's really funny. White South African will go, yeah man, it's crime, I don't feel safe, and blah, blah. Another white South African will go, yeah, me too, it's terrible. And then a black South African will say, yeah, hey, you never know when they're coming. And then the white South Africans will look at them like, I mean, they'll look at them like, no, but we're like afraid of them. You know what I mean? They sometimes they look at a black person like, no, but you can like, it's your cousin. You can ask him not to take your car. I can't do anything. Think about it, my Becky. It's just you and your cousin. You're safe. And
White people think that black people's houses were burglarized to keep them in.
Yes, but you know what? And I think. No, but you know what I mean, Dan. It's like to your point. I think that's maybe one of the greatest disservices and injustices we did in our system. And by the way, I am somebody who's actually quite for what happened with the TRT. I know a lot of people have issues and a lot of people go, it was wrong and this and this and this. I think it was innovative. I think it was the first time it's ever been done. I don't think it's ever been done anywhere else. People,
Not in that way.
yeah, people always try and propose it.
Yeah.
But I think with any system or any idea, there's going to be the implementation and you realize, oh, we could improve on it. Like a constitution.
Is it the part that says, the one that belongs to everyone who lives in it? You know, like the pop? Yeah, no. Okay.
This is a conversation for another day. This is a conversation for another day. No, so what I mean is that you can always improve a constitution. You can always improve an idea. I think the TRC, first time out, my goodness. What an attempt to mend and to bridge the gaps in a nation where people were separated in a way that most nations have never experienced, right? But I think the one thing we have yet to do and we have never done is gone, hey, what is that exposure therapy that people need? Yeah. And sort of an involuntary exposure therapy.
Yeah.
You know, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, Dale, and we were talking about how at our school they had a program where, because we were the first generation that was like, literally, you and I were the first generation, how old are you guys? 31, yeah. So we were the first generation of kids that went to school with kids of a different race.
Yeah.
Literally, I sometimes think about how crazy that was when I go like, literally, the first year in my school, that there were black kids, Indian kids, colored kids, with white kids. That was the first time that had ever happened.
You guys were round one. You were the first child.
We were literally
all an experiment.
Yo, our teachers
so wrong.
Our teachers had never seen a black child in front of them in a classroom before.
Our parents went to where they Sunday best. Yo, the first drop off.
Drop off. Our parents didn't even know what a drop off was.
And we drop off live.
No, but just think about that as a concept. I remember being shocked that when I went to school, kids were dropped off by their parents in a vehicle that they owned. Like one child got out of one car. Meanwhile, when the black kids got there, it was like a circus trick. Where like one car and they open a door, and then like you're 15. And that's how we just traveled. The back of every bus, the back of every van was all of us. You know what I mean? But that exposure, like our school had this program where they went, we want every kid to go and stay at another kid's house who they're friends with. They weren't even like, they weren't like strangers. Yes. But they said, hey, you guys are friends. But it was a deliberate program. Yo, it was amazing to see, talking about like exposure therapy, it was amazing to see how the black kids weren't particularly surprised by what they experienced because many of them had moms who were working for white people. So they had seen a glimpse of the white life. Let me tell you something. Every single white kid who went to go and live with a black family for a weekend, every single one of them went home and said the same thing. They said, Mom and Dad, Do you know how black people live? And not in like a righteous way. Just like a child, like a curious way. Like a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, they're like, yo, do you know how they live? Do you know how they come to school every day? Do you know that they have to take 3 buses with strangers? Do you know that they don't have hot water in the morning at their house? You have to make a fire and then heat it up, and then they go that out, and then you have to do it again for each person. And they have to, you know, they don't have their own bathroom. You know that they toilets outside. I go to school with this kid. I see myself as his direct like competition in that way. Yeah. But I'm going, how is he doing that when he woke up like that? Doesn't in the dark. How is he playing cricket with me? Or playing soccer with me? How does he have the energy when he ate like that?
And that goes back to the conversation you had with that guy in London about like starting completely equal from scratch, and about BE laws and redress laws and justice and transformation laws. It's that exact conversation.
We're going to continue this conversation right after this short break.
Trevor, I wanted to suggest something though, because we've been talking about exposure, but there's something along with that, which is about getting South Africans to empathize with each other. So a positive example is Springboks, if we all feel proud of the Springboks for like making South African, like it's cool and like to be South African, to be proud. But like, ironically, one thing that quite often doesn't perfectly cut through all classes in a capitalist society, but does further than anything else create empathy, is service delivery failure. Yeah. So one of the best ways for South Africans to empathically get together is to go fuck ESCOM. Yes. And to go fuck the police. Yes. I have seen black and white South Africans.
ESCOM has brought us together.
Like, it's brought, no, it has. It's a joke and it's the truth.
No, it's true, right?
It's true. A common agreement that the ANC has failed us into service delivery and other things that, you know, potholes on the road.
But can I tell you what I like about ESCOM more than the ANC? The ANC's politics, so what ends up happening is people then fall into that trap of making it a synonym for black. Yes. So they go, look at what the ANC has done to South Africa. Then you go like, then a black person will say, yeah, no, wait, I'm going to start my own political party. And they're like, no, but you might do the same thing. I mean, look at what the ANC has done. Then you're like, oh, okay, you're using it. What I like about ESCOM is, it's this nameless, faceless power utility. Yeah. And what it has done, and this is something that is like, it's crazy to say, but ESCOM, the power provider in South Africa, has done something that has never happened in South Africa. It has made every South African experience the same thing, regardless of color of their skin. Exactly. This is the first time in our history when a black person and a white person can sit together and go, we have the exact same problem. And to your point, we take for granted how, it's sad that it has to be a problem, but it's like, that is something that is so fundamentally powerful. It's for two people to go, hey man, you live in a township, I live in a suburb, but we both hate ESCOM. We get it.
And those are the small victories that as South Africans we tend to miss. I mean, the biggest victory for the TRC was not justice, which would have been great for the victims and the families of the victims, but overall for South Africans, was to see these authoritarians who were backed by the state machinery to demonize black people, being told to sit down and shut the fuck up. Yeah. That had never happened. And it happened live, with everyone watching. Desmond Tutu and whoever was in the country, and this is not flat. You're going to sit down, you're going to listen, and you're going to answer these questions. That was the overall resounding victory for all South African watchers. Not the fact that they point us to the grave. The process was to bait fast and stay the course and not snitch on each other. Well, that's for him and his grave, take two. But for us as South Africans that were all watching, and we saw this mild-mannered man, Desmond Tutu, disabling them with kindness, but subtly telling them as well to sit down and shut the fuck up. For the first time ever, that was more powerful to South Africans than when he was just in the air after wearing his wife's glasses, standing outside the library in Kenya, the one of the after pulling up the next leader. You know, so that for us, as black people sitting there all together, it was repeating the cycle. What's that biggest victory?
It's not the same. But we're talking about things that provide unity and agreement.
Yeah.
Do you think that the largely black South African led but many different race groups in South Africa, communally telling the refugees, the Tutsis and the Tutsis, was similar. It was like, you guys fuck off. If we don't want you here, you're completely wrong. We all agree that you benefited by going to America off of a lie that we all as a country reject.
Yes,
we all as a country say farm murders are not disproportionate or more brutal than all other murders.
Well, you see that even
and
like,
there's no
if you
genocide.
pause, I think it's also feels like something that's, guys, branding, man. There's one thing I've learned in observing American politics. Don't mess around with branding, especially right wing, as you say. Right-wing branding is flawed. You know what I mean? Left-wing branding, left-wing branding is not feeling academic and like ephemeral at best. It's like, what does that mean?
You need a slogan.
No, just think about it for a second, guys. Farm murders. Guys, why is a murder labeled differently than any other murder?
White genocide.
Bruh.
But like, guys, there are murders
Yeah, bro.
happening every single day in South Africa every year. They've never been given a special title.
Also, farm murders implies owners, when most of them are laborers or people who just happen to live on the farm.
Yes.
But the branding is wink nudge suggestive
Somebody help
that
me.
it is the owners who are
help me.
wink nudge white.
And you right to add to that, robberies in farms are the problem. And the same farmers are not willing to disclose what is being robbed in those farms. As you all know,
It's worse though.
farms are not cash flush businesses. There's a tractor, there's a bakkie, there's equipment, but what else is there inside your game farm that is worth more than your car? In a safe this big.
And it's also, what is it?
Firearms.
I don't know the stats of ownership of firearms.
They are expensive.
Yeah, they are very
Right, firearms. The robbery is of the firearm. So if you have to think about someone who has a cache of firearms because they cater to guests that come from overseas, that can fly in their firearms, to shoot the kudus and the buffaloes. Now there's 500,000 rands worth of firearms and ammunition in the safe, and you've got laborers that don't live or that are not registered to be in this country, right next to the border of the place where they come from. Guess what they're not taking your house?
Something that's also, I mean,
What about the iPhone?
yeah, for sure. For sure. And I mean, the nature of rural South Africa is that very, very often a farm is the only place with any kind of asset value for 100 square kilometers. And everybody else living in that area are impoverished people living in townships. And that's just a crime story about class. If you only have one really successful high-value asset business in a whole area where everyone else doesn't have food to eat, what do you think is going to happen? It's like completely a class dynamic function happening in rural areas where the farms are the only place